Hello, my name is Owen, and welcome back. Welcome back to a Malazan review. They said it. They said they were done. They said the videos were done. They said he stopped reading the series. They said that. They said that. Try to listen to them. You can hear them faintly. Screams of despair. Because we are so back. Our Malazan reread. We started this back in last June. That'd be June of 2023, by the way. I started doing recap videos of each part, reviews, thoughts, and then I would do like spoiler recaps for like the foreshadowing of the series. Started off really good, June, July, August even, I think. House of Chains, the fourth book in the series. We took our good old time with it. Took us like 4 or 5 months. This one has been taking us a couple of months as well, but we finally finished part 1. So what I'll be doing, I'll be talking about part 1, Frozen Blood, today, and then we'll kind of be spoiling everything from here backward. We're not going to spoil the end of the book, so if you're reading along with my playlist of Malazan videos here, this is a safe space. Just know that if you're watching this, like binge watching it, just know that this video came much longer after than the previous one. And then the ones before that came way after the ones before that. But then there was a period there where I was really on top of things. And maybe that'll return. It wouldn't be as fast as month to month, but this series is so good. In Midnight Tides, dare I say, one of the strongest books in the entire series. So I'm very excited to re-delve into it. And I just got to commit to it. I got a lot of distractions, got a lot of the books I wanted to read. But we're back, right? So let's just start. Before we get into part 1, we got to talk about the prologue, of course. The betrayal of Siltrus Ruin from the hands of Scabandari Bloodeye. The Tisti Dur, Tistandi betrayal, a war against the raptors with sword arms, classic Malazan, just to set the tone there. And it makes us think about perhaps the title of this part 1, Frozen Blood, because obviously at the end of that, this elder god male requests the Jagged to freeze the scene rather than wipe it clean. Frozen blood, perhaps so people can see the blood that has been frozen, or perhaps when it melts, the blood, the war will return. I don't know. Just spitballing here. But we start this story. This is such a good book. So we're introduced, and I keep getting sidetracked. I feel like this book, of all the Malazan books, this might be a hot take, of all 10 Book of the Fallen Malazan books, this one is the most, I was going to say concise. Concise is not the good word. It's the most well-packaged, I think. I think it's the most isolated story. It's the most standalone story. Like if you gave this book to a stranger, I think it's the only book of the 10 that you could say, just read this book, and if like you wanted to stop, you could. It'd be weird. It'd be weird if you did, but like it's because it's a prequel, because it's set before a lot of the other books, a lot of the other moments that we've read about. I don't know how it lines up with like the Karsa Orlong timeline in House of Chains, but because it's a prequel, it is separated from the events that we've gotten past. It doesn't have anything to do with Dead House Gates, doesn't have anything to do with the events of the end of House of Chains, but we are stuck with familiar face. Troll Sengar, who we remember from House of Chains. So immediately he's someone we latch onto in this completely new continent, completely new characters, completely new world. He's kind of like our anchor, right? Because we know him and we know he's good of heart, we know he's honorable. So immediately someone we can attach ourselves to. It's like, we want this guy, whatever he's trying to do, we want him to win, right? And the Sengar family is the first, or is one of the main families that we encounter in this world. And we obviously do like Troll. We know he's honorable. We know how he progresses in House of Chains, him and Anorak and their brotherhood there. Such a great duo there. But I feel like this book shows another side of Troll, perhaps the side of like insecurity, of maybe a little bit overbearing, and how much he cares for his brothers, because there's the dynamic of Rulad, who's kind of like the young upstart, wants to prove himself, and he kind of is like a little bit foolhardy, sauntering around, right, strutting, as I would say. And then in front of his other brother's fiance, essentially, Fear Sengar's fiance. Fear seems more stoic, doesn't really care. So Troll's like, yo, you should care about this. He's like trying to flirt with your wife. Like, this is weird. Everyone's gonna look down on us. Rulad's being kind of a weirdo, but I kind of pity him because he just doesn't have the chance to prove himself like the rest of his brothers. Benadas is kind of like a weirdo. Like, he doesn't really have a character at this point, in part 1 at least, but it's just kind of a family dynamic, right? So these are brothers in like a tribe-like society. They are very close in proximity, but there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of like spark points between the two of them. They're bashing heads a lot, having a lot of arguments, and you even get the sense that their father and mother have this point of contention, because this is a tribe-like society, and they have been recently taken over before the events of the book by Hanan Mosag, and he's kind of this warlock, sorcerer type character who has united all the tribes, and he's going to lead them to prosperous, but uses some kind of dark magic, which is kind of suspicious, right? The dad seems all in, and it's revealed that the women of the tribe seem to be like, no, we don't buy it. So the point of contention there, where the sons are like, do we listen to mom? Do we follow dad? This warlock guy's giving us some credit where credit is due. Wants to send us this mysterious mission. Brothers that don't like each other, or they love each other but they don't like each other kind of situation. They're preparing to go on this quest, and these tensions are kind of sparking there. And on the flip side of that, before we talk more about the Tistidor, we have the flip side of that, which is, or the mirror side of that rather, which is this Letheri society and the Bedek brothers. So the Bedek brothers, that would be, let's see if I can remember off the top of my head, I should, because I just read it, Bryce Bedek maybe. He's the king's champion. He's immersed himself in the politics, the very Game of Thrones-y politics of this Letheri society. He's the king's champion. He interacts with the king, the royal advisors, the queen, the consorts, the royal sorcerers, the head of the guard, all that stuff. He's very deeply into the politics there. Seems to be a nice guy. One of my favorite characters, not gonna lie. Then we have Tehol. His name makes me upset. Bedek. He is this secret not bum, but he looks like a bum. He's like, I think him and his manservant Bug have the most comedic dynamic. He's the only character where like these two have moments together where I think is genuinely funny. Because as we know, I think if you laugh at a book, I kind of lose trust for you. I think you're kind of psychotic. I'm not a big laugher at things. If I'm watching a video on my phone, I don't. Some people do that. Some people like to laugh out loud. More power to you. I'm not a laugh out louder to things that other people can't see. If I'm watching like something public, like it's a comedian, or it's like a piece of comedic theater, no one laughs louder than me. No one laughs louder than me. Is it because I'm trying to strut perhaps myself that I found that funny? you heard that too? I found that funny. But when I'm reading something in private, I feel like if I laugh, everyone's gonna be like, what's this guy think is so funny? And I don't want to explain it because I'll be like, well, actually, and this is a fantasy book, and this is a world like this kind of based in like a super capitalist society, and there's these two characters, right? And then one guy doesn't wear pants. They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? And I don't want to go down that road. But there are moments that are really funny, small, subtle, comedic moments with the dynamic between the two. But I'm getting off topic. Tehol really wants to have this big scheme, but like he acts like he doesn't care about it, where he wants to undermine this whole financial system, because this whole Letheri society is very capitalist, based on debt and greed and more, and they're trying to slowly take over this entire continent, right? And apparently we learned that in the past, he did this, he took like millions of dollars out of the city's economy, or the country's economy, I guess, and almost tanked the whole thing, and then he kind of disappeared, and he acted like he lost it all. He's so destitute, he's got another plan cooking. So it's kind of him building this plan while having some banter with Bug, and it just goes from there. It's the most like cartoony character, I feel like, in the book, because it's just so ridiculous. There's this banter between the Bug and Tehol where it's like, oh, like, should we make you pants? It's like, oh, you made the pants lopsided. Wah, 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 wah. That's what it's like. But it's so good. And it's smartly written too, and there's great moments where it's like, this is a side change as well, but there's the one scene where it's like, Bug is like, hey, like, I'm kind of thirsty, and Tehol's like, hey, you want some tea? He's like, oh yeah, tea would be great. And then it's just like one line, just like they just stared at each other for a couple of minutes, because like Bug thought like, okay, like you're gonna get the tea. It's like, no, you're the manservant, man. Get the tea. And the Bug's like, the Bug goes, gets the tea. Just like small like humor like that, where like it's very cinematic in the sense of like, or like, I guess no, maybe not cinematic is the right word, but it's like very visual, where like you can picture the dynamic playing out in real life. Like that's a comedic moment that would happen in a show or happen in a movie. And the way it's written in a book, where it's like you could very easily skim over it, but like when you're actually reading it, it's like that is a funny, subtle moment. But there's also more overtly funny things that they do. But he's the second brother. The third brother would be, oh no, what's the third brother's name? He's the one that is the least memorable. That being said, I think on this reread, he is a lot more, I think it's Hull, right? This is so embarrassing. Or is it? Holbedict, I was right. So he is on a journey, right? He had this previous role of trying to immerse himself in the local cultures, and then his capitalist greed society decided to use that information that he gathered to take over these people. So he had this great sense of betrayal from his country. He made friends with these locals, and then they used his information to take over them. And then we get the sense he's kind of on a vendetta revenge mission, right? He kind of joined this delegation party to meet the Idur, to have peace talks, and we get the sense that he's going to kind of derail it and try to start war. So we have these, the Sengar brothers that are close in this tribe, but they don't like each other, there's tension. And then we have the Vedic brothers where they're separate parts of the city, or in Hull's case, outside of the city. But we get the sense that they have a deep love for each other, they're just not super close. And there was some tension with their parents in the past, and so we get the sense that their father committed suicide because of the debt he was in, and his mother I don't know, she passed away somehow too. But there's deep resentment of their society in different ways, and they have different ways of expressing that. Bryce, I want to say Bryce from now on. We get the sense that he's the type of person where it's he doesn't like his society, he's going to rise himself to the top and try to fix it, right? He's the king's champion, he's got a lot of influence. Tehel wants to bring the whole thing down through financial smarts, just collapsing, turning their own greed against them, and Hull is more brutish, right? He just wants to burn the whole thing down. We get that sense. And it's an interesting setup for the story, right? Because we have these parallel brothers on two different sides of the conflict, but the one common enemy seems to be this Letheri empire, right? And none of the protagonist characters that we meet have any love for the system. And then even Udinus, the slave character, he's kind of a meeting point of the two cultures because he was a Letheri person and now he's a slave for the Idur, so he kind of gets both sides of the culture. He's immersed in the Idur, but he has this sense of debts and repay debts and how that affected him in his life, and now he's a slave. And then on the flip side of that, there's also a twisting of the Idur tribe, right? Because in this case, you would normally think it's oh, well, the native tribe, they should prevail. These would be the protagonist society, right? So maybe the Bedics will team up with the Idur and they would team up, right? But this whole sorcerer Hanan Mosag character kind of puts a tone of corruption on that, because we don't exactly know if we could trust him or not. And he united all these tribes, which sounds like a good thing. It'd be a good thing in your local blockbuster film. But we don't know if he's a good guy. Where is he getting his power from? What has he sold himself to get this power? And then also, we learned that this betrayal in the prologue, in present day in this Idur society, they have it twisted. They have it flipped on its head, where it's Blood Eye who was betrayed by the Tistandi, rather than what actually happened was the reverse. And Udinus is also a character that, through his perspective, we are allowed to learn this information. To be honest, his whole character arc of being possessed by a Wyval and then within the shadow of the Tistandi ghosts in his back, I have no idea what's happening in those ones. I don't know why he was possessed in his blood by a dragon-like being. I don't know how Withel found him in his shadow and joined him. I don't understand the mechanics of that. I just know as a character device, he's a mending of the two cultures, and he's also provides us this insight of it wasn't blood. We know Blood Eye betrayed Sochus Ruin, and yet this culture thinks it's the reverse. He's the character in universe that learns that. So this whole Idur culture is built on this lie that they are the victims, which kind of gives us a key, I feel like, and that maybe this isn't the big evil empire versus the nice, innocent natives, because even though they think that, we know that the truth is that they built this on a betrayal, right? And I think just in general, kind of to step away from this book event specifically, if we're looking back a little bit, a lot of these books focus on the Tistandi as this kind of lost, wandering people, right? Animandarek, he's fighting so his people can have a purpose, because they have no purpose. And when they lose their purpose entirely, they'll basically just fade away, right? They're these long-living, basically, maybe not immortal beings, but very long-living beings, and they just lost all meaning, right? They've suffered a lot of defeat, a lot of heartache, and they just keep going for basically no reason. The Idur are also a lost people, and they're lost people for a different way. Like I said, their entire culture is built on a lie, and perhaps this Hanan Mosag character has given them this new purpose. But the fact that we don't know exactly where it's coming from gives us a little bit of pause. So then that's the main conceit setup of these characters and these cultures, which I think is extraordinarily interesting. And then from there, there's some other things too. That's basically the main conceit, right? That's the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video, is just like the thematic setup of these characters. It's the two brothers on mirrored sides. The Letherii culture is bad, the Aedur culture is twisted. I think that's the main part of that. Obviously, this frozen blood, right? We think that the blood being frozen is this betrayal, and maybe the melting of that betrayal throughout this part is the revealing of the truth, of the true nature of the Aedur culture, right? And then I think it's also interesting, just some small specific plot details before I wrap this video up. There are some very interesting moments in this part. There's a moment where Briss is sent into this watery realm. They're trying to figure out what Hanan Mosag is getting this power from. He meets like this weird creature under the sea, these gods that have forgotten their names. He takes their names up, and there's like a weird elder magic part of this, and we're kind of getting introduced to a new side of the magic system, where instead of like there's the more ancient magic system that we're used to in the other books, right? Because like the new ones with like Hood and Shadow Throne and Cotillion, this is a more ancient form of that magic, right? And they kind of talk about briefly about like, well, we have a more ancient form of magic, but like we got that from the First Empire, which is talked about in the previous books. Like so it's just a different, it's a different but the same system, just as like a basis of the magic system, right? And this concept of like male, like an elder god. We don't really encounter a lot of elder gods other than K. Rool in the other books, but just so as a context of the world we're living in, right? And then the other thing, the politics of the Letherii society, we get a lot of sense that there's a lot of internal conflict. There's the queen who doesn't seem to get along with the king's interests, so we know that's kind of like a powder keg about to explode there. And then overall, there's like foreshadowing through like the court wizard of like this kingdom will turn into an empire. I think I called it Letherii Empire a couple times, but they mentioned that this society will evolve into an empire in the near future. That's what the tiles are telling them, not like the deck, not the deck of dragons in this world. That's what the tiles are telling them, that this will evolve into an empire. So that's kind of the setup there. That's where we're at. This society is about to evolve. They're going to have this conflict. They're going to have this meeting. Is Hull going to blow it up? And there's also very small characters, or not small characters. There's no small characters, only small readers. But or smaller moments, like with Tehul's thief, who's like undead, but she's alive, in her meetings with Kettle in the House of the Azath. The House of the Azath, good thing I remember to say this because I almost forgot, this is really important. In the very beginning of the prologue, they hint at the Azath house, right? And they put Siltrus Ruin in the Azath house, and they mention in the very prologue, which happens thousands of years in the past, they're going to put him into an overcrowded House of the Azath. When they say that in the very prologue, that's a Chekhov's gun. If you say the Azath house is full and about to pop, it's going to pop. That's not a spoiler. And then we learn about this Kettle character, who is another undead girl. She's like wandering the grounds. She's like murdering people on the street. Kind of badass. But she's like, these people, like these creatures under the ground, they're talking to me. And they want to get out, and they're getting closer. That's scary. Quite frankly, I'm frightened, but that's like something in the background, in the heart of the city as well. So that's kind of like a ticking time bomb there, where how is that going to play into things? And I think Kettle and I think Shirk Ilal, the undead thief, is a very interesting character as well. And then we have I forget what they call her. She's like the navigator, but she's like the Hull's ex, but she's kind of like the neutral party in this thing. And she's like, I don't know if I'm going to side with Hull or I'm going to side with my country. I don't really know what I'm going to do. She's another great character in this one. A lot of small characters, a lot of building tension, a lot of past politics that we got to dive into. But like I said earlier, I feel like this is the most concise, most easy to consume one. It's all very much, maybe not telegraphed to us directly, but I feel like this book is very easy to follow. How complicated the politics are, and like whose side should we be on. We're following Troll. We like the Beddick brothers, even though some of them may be like Hull, or maybe just a little bit too impulsive, maybe a little bit too brutish about it, but we understand where he's coming from. And I feel like almost all of the brothers, we know exactly where they're coming from, except Benedas. What's this guy talking about? He's just mysterious. He's got no personality. But Fear, he's the elder brother. He's trying to keep things composed. He's not going to let his littlest brother get under his skin, right? Dude, I got a fiance, dude. Like, you're not gonna take her out from under me. I'm the oldest brother. I'm the eldest boy. Troll's like kind of the middle son. He's like, yo, like this is unright. This is not just. And then Roulette just trying to prove himself, right? And then the final thing I want to say, because I know I talk a lot about like themes and stuff in later videos, but it's just so important that we that we clock these things as they happen. The Lotharii society is very focused on greed and debts and very capitalist society. I know some people are like, oh, it's an analog for America. I'm pretty sure Stephen Erickson has said it wasn't America, but it is a capitalist, like ultra greed society, right? But there's a great line where it's talking about the society, and Stephen Erickson said, let me just find the exact quote because I know I marked it special. They said, in this society, no one could afford compassion. Accordingly, none expected it from others either. So the fact that we have this society that is so about money, so about buying and consumption and debt and greed, they can't afford compassion. What did we say was one of the major themes of this series moving forward that we should keep our eyes on? Compassion as a theme. Memories of Ice is all about that final display of compassion by Idkovian, right? We know that from House of Chains that Troll is a compassionate and honorable character, right? This is a whole society, a whole kingdom that does not believe in compassion, right? In case you needed to figure out what we're trying to fight here, every character that does not believe in compassion is a villain in this story, without a doubt. Some characters learn to have compassion more than they did originally, but the characters that or the concepts, the societies that are completely against it, we should be wary of, right? We should be wary of these people. Just saying. That's an important line. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more like it in the future. I love doing this stuff, guys. I don't care if nobody watches it. I love doing it. Thanks for sticking around.